Why are they doing this on the road? See, this is where it starts. They call it bonding, tour life, the road, long nights, tour buses, hotels, after parties. They sell you this idea that it's about camaraderie, about building trust with the crew, with the team, with the label. But behind the scenes, the real predators, people like Diddy and the ones around him, they've got someone quietly watching you the entire time, watching what you'll do, watching how far you're willing to go, testing your limits. Because once they know how far you'll go on the road, they know exactly what to do when they invite you to the house. And here is where it gets dark. What they're doing with homosexuality in this industry is wrong. Not because homosexuality is wrong, that's the lie they want you to swallow. Homosexuality by itself has nothing to do with being a sodomite, with abuse, with violence, with exploitation. It's not demonic, it's not perversion, it's simply a preference about who you love. It's about attraction, it's about your heart, that's it. Your sexuality should not be the deciding factor for what contracts you're allowed to sign, for which deals you get, for what rooms you're invited into. It should not be tied to how high you're allowed to climb in your career. It certainly shouldn't be weaponized as the price of admission into superstardom. Yet here we are. Why is this energy so heavy? Why is it so prevalent in the industry? Why are there so many stories about gatekeepers and sex parties and favors behind closed doors? Should being openly gay close doors? No, being openly gay should just mean being openly gay. Nothing more, nothing less. It should not be a death sentence for your career. It shouldn't automatically turn into blackmail material or leverage. And the saddest, sickest part of all of this, most of these people out here are not even openly gay. They are forced to stay in the closet. They are forced to pass. They are forced into silence, which means they are forced to do what? Live a lie. And once you get used to living one big lie, it becomes a whole lot easier to live any lie. To lie to your fans, to lie to your spouse, to lie to your children, to lie to yourself. Let's be honest about something nobody likes to touch, Faith Evans. How does a woman with that much vocal talent, that much soul, end up married to somebody like Stevie J? Really sit with that. Does that sound like a natural progression of her life? Or does it feel like the kind of thing that happens when somebody's been in the game so long they don't even know who they are without the industry scripting their story? Or maybe, just maybe, years ago, you made a decision to become a hip-hop plant because you didn't think your light-skinned, thick, plus-size self was ever going to be taken seriously or get a fair shot organically. So when the opportunity came, when the door cracked open, you took it. You were a single mother, your back against the wall, trying to survive in a business that eats women alive. Think about Faith Evans from that angle. Ask yourself, how different does her whole life, her whole career look if what people are whispering is true? If Diddy told her in advance he was going to have Biggie killed because Biggie was planning to leave Bad Boy and go get his publishing, if she knew that night was coming, if she chose not to be with her husband that night on purpose. Imagine it happens, Biggie is murdered, and then she's told, you will lie about this, you will play your part, you will protect the story. And that lie holds. It holds for years. It holds until that boy, her son, Christopher Wallace Jr., turns 18 and starts having his own ideas about what he's inherited, what's owed to him, what the truth might actually be. Because you know how the paperwork was set up, right? Faith was not allowed to receive $1 from Biggie's estate for herself. The money was structured so that any funds going to her had to be for the benefit of her child with Biggie, little Christopher. She only had one child by Biggie. All the other children she had before or after, they still needed feeding. They still needed school, housing, health care, but they couldn't be fed off Christopher Wallace's money. Legally, they weren't his kids. You see how that works? They make sure the money is locked in a way that keeps people dependent, manageable, and easy to steer. You play along or your world collapses. I'd love to know what Jay-Z would really say about all this if he ever told the full truth, because he was right there too, remember, in that era, in those rooms, in that circle. You heard what Gene Deal said, Puff's old security. He said he never had much contact with Faith, and with the little bit of contact he did have, he was surprised by the pairing too. He said it out loud, Faith and Biggie never really made sense. He's right, it didn't make sense to anyone looking from the outside, and truthfully it probably shall. Deanna made sense to them either, but they were married in 10 days. 10 days? Ask Faith how long they were together before they got married. The story changes. Sometimes it was 10 days, sometimes 20, sometimes a couple weeks, sometimes a month. The timeline slides around like wet chalk. I'll put it in perspective. My second marriage, I told y'all I got married after 21 days. 21, you can talk to me and my second husband separately and you'll get the same number. That story has never changed because it's true. So why does hers keep changing? I'm not saying she never developed feelings for Biggie. I'm not saying she didn't care about the father of her son. What I am saying is she was hired for one job, and that job was bigger than romance. And then in the middle of all that chaos, she ends up entangled with Tupac, while Pac and Biggie were beefing, while the coasts were at war. And we're supposed to believe she did know Pac was Pac. Come on, none of this shit adds up. It only starts to make sense when you accept how calculated this industry is. Because what does make sense painfully is that Diddy has had a very long career of using people. Using bodies, using sex, using secrets, using tapes, using anything he can to trap folks into doing what he wants. And if he can't use you to do what he wants, he'll use you to move somebody else out of the way. How is Faith Evans any different from Lauren London in that context? Hell, there's no real difference at all. Both were struggling artists or actresses trying to make their way up, not getting the big break they needed. And then suddenly, miraculously, they're standing next to the guy, the chosen one, the icon, the neighborhood hero, and then just like that, that man is dead, and now they're set up for life. Tell me how many times that pattern has played out in this business. What makes Faith Evans any different from Lauren London, or Faith from Camille Cosby? Yeah, let's talk Camille. Did you know Camille Cosby is part white? Did you know she's tied into the Rothschild family? The same kind of bloodline that sits behind major corporations, media conglomerates, secret societies, the Luciferian types who co-own platforms like YouTube, who are friendly with monsters like Liar Cohen, who mentored Jay-Z into a billionaire. Camille is from that branch. People don't want to admit it, they don't want to dig that deep. It's easier to just say, oh, that's Bill's nice, quiet, educated wife, and leave it at that. But ask yourself, did Bill Cosby marry the love of his life? Or did he marry an industry plant, someone placed carefully, strategically, to stand next to him as his career exploded, to keep him in line, to keep him owned? Everybody recognizes Bill Cosby as a villain now. That part is clear in the public narrative, but has anyone seriously stopped to ask whether he was also a victim? Because blackmail and setups have been around for a very long time in this business. It's not new, and Bill was the biggest black TV star in America. The first of his kind at that scale. He was huge, just like Will Smith became huge. And you have to ask, how do they pick these men to build up and then destroy? You remember those movies with Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby? They were only supposed to get one film, just one shot, but they ended up getting a few. Now imagine this, hypothetically, Sidney doesn't want to do certain favors, doesn't want to dirty his hands. So he lets Bill be the one who gets drugged, who gets pulled into the real backroom deals so they can secure the budget, the financing, the green lights. Far-fetched maybe, but the patterns repeat. And don't forget those tunnels. From Diddy's house to Hugh Hefner's house. That underground path, that naked pool, that was Diddy's idea. Those tunnels were there long before Diddy had the money to buy a mansion. They were part of Hugh Hefner's world, the Playboy Mansion world, where a lot of the offenses that women accused Bill Cosby of took place. That's where most of those nights happened, at the Playboy Mansion. And everybody who really knows Hugh Hefner had cameras everywhere, in the walls, in the ceilings, every room a set, every party a shoot. So let me ask, did anybody ever bother to ask whether Bill Cosby had a freak-off tape, whether somebody somewhere has footage of Bill doing exactly what they later accused him of? Because once somebody has you on tape, they own you. And once they own you, they can make you dance any way they want. Next thing you know, his son is dead, and he's killed on the side of the road in what they called a random robbery. Next thing you know, all kinds of weird tragedies start piling up. And yet, for years, in spite of the rumors, in spite of the whispers, Bill remains untouchable. If they really wanted to take him down just for what he did to women, they could have done it in the late 80s or the early 90s when he was at his most powerful. Most visible, they didn't. Look what they did with Kobe. They dug up that white girl from Colorado after he had an encounter. He barely remembered drugs, alcohol, confusion. That's how this works. They wait, they calculate, they pull the string when it serves a bigger agenda. And through all this drugging and drinking and controlled chaos, does anyone ever stop to ask about the consciousness of the people involved? Their state of mind, their capacity to consent, or even to understand what they're doing on either side of the crime. Because I'll tell you something from personal knowledge. I know a rapper who suffers from severe alcoholism. I love him very much. Somebody approached me about him being involved with an underage girl years ago, and that was the first time in my life I had to say, I plead the fifth, because I knew the story was true. But you know what else was true? He was drunk out of his mind, high out of his mind. When they sent that girl to him, he was blackout wasted. He had no idea what he was doing. Everyone who truly knows him knows that when he drinks, he blacks out. He wouldn't have known if that girl was 23 or 15. She could have told him anything. And guess what? That girl was used by more than one rapper. They passed her around like a prop. A little thick-bodied girl, barely grown, being run from studio to studio while a bunch of grown men and their handlers lied about her age. She was bait, a setup waiting to happen. Now here's where it twists even more. Snoop Dogg has access to that tape. So the question becomes, which member of Thaw Dog Pound is he holding that over? Because he is holding it over someone, of that I'm certain. If I were worried about somebody snitching on me for helping set up Tupac to get killed, you'd better believe I'd want something very serious on them too. I'd want a tape of them committing statutory rape, something undeniable, something so shameful it would shut their mouth forever. And if that same person had been an alcoholic for years, destroying themselves slowly, Maybe nobody ever connects that the reason he's been trying to drink himself to death is because he can't live with what he's done. Or what he let happen. That's the PTSD that comes with hip-hop. That's the trauma that never gets talked about in interviews or documentaries. That's the ugly underside, all of them carrying secrets, nightmares, guilt, and no safe place to put it. Speaking of trauma, let's talk about Sukihana for a second. She's out here saying she regrets the tattoos on her face and on her ass. The same tattoos that were part of her branding, her image, her shock value. So what do I think about that? Here's my thing, I didn't get my first tattoo until I was 32 years old. Not because I was scared of the needle, not because I was a punk, but because I told myself, I am not mature enough yet to decide what I want permanently etched into my skin for the rest of my life. My rule was, I won't get a tattoo until I know two things. One, that I'm wise enough to choose symbols that mean something deep to my journey. And two, that I never again plan on committing a crime, robbing a bank, doing dirt, because I didn't want to give the system any identifiable marks to use against me. I did a lot of fucked up shit when I was a kid. I'm not going to lie, having no tattoos back then was great for my freedom. Laughter. They couldn't identify me. But as you see now, I do have tattoos. Once I was convinced I was never going to have to rob another bank or pull a stunt like that, I started getting ink, and any regrets? None, not one. Even this one right here. Once upon a time, this tattoo said GLJ, Gerald L. Johnson. That was my wedding band. I literally tattooed my husband's initials on my ring finger. Now it says God, because that's who I actually married, and that's the only husband who was ever faithful to me. Come on now. Everything can become something new if you let it. Everything can be redeemed. So if you've got a bunch of dumb shit on your face, or some wild art on your ass that you got just to make people think you were hot, or because you wanted some guy to say, I like your tattoo better than hers, if you did it for attention, for clout, for validation, then honestly, I don't care that you don't like it now. That's on you. Learn to live with it. Learn to like it. The only reason you don't like it is because it was meaningless when you put it there. No intention, no spirituality, no story, just impulse. Every tattoo on my body, everywhere that ink sits, means something. My tattoos are like a road map of my life. Even the ones written in Hebrew. You have to know what your journey means before you start labeling it on your skin. Laughter. Vags. Because it can go the other way. If I had gotten a tattoo on my body for every man I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, I'd be covered head to toe in fucked up roses, zebras, lions, initials, a whole circus. Trying to cover all that bullshit up. You want to know the dopest thing about this God wedding band? I got it done a month before I met him, before my real husband, and he has never known it as anything other than God. He never knew I repurposed it from a man to my maker. Everything evolves, symbols evolve, you evolve. I just think these kids do a lot of stupid shit, and they're encouraged by clout, by social media, by labels, by fans, by broken parents who did stupid shit themselves. Stupid begets stupid, stupid raises stupid, and now everybody wants to be a victim, but nobody wants to have the courage to be a hero. Look at this whole country, it's victim, 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 victim. I've been hurt, I've been wronged, I've been oppressed. And yes, a lot of that is real, but if all we ever are is victims, they are going to pack us up real fast. We are out here looking like a bunch of punks for real. No spine, no fight. People love to listen to victims, there's sympathy there, but people are inspired by victors, by the ones who push back, who expose, who resist. And that brings me to politics. This whole political circus right now, it's annoying the hell out of me. They've started the show up again, the speeches, the rallies, the conventions. It's like watching a bad reality series with unlimited seasons. I never thought I would reach a point where I would say I sympathize with Donald Trump, but here I am. Right now, Trump actually has my sympathy. Not because I agree with him, not because he's a saint, but because for the first time he's actually telling the truth about something, that the system is weaponized, that politics is being used to make examples out of people. And nobody wants to hear it because he's been the boy who cried wolf, or in this case, cried rigged election, deep state, witch hunt for so long. You watch any of the Democratic National Convention. They had Lil Jon out there performing from the window to the wall, till the sweat dropped down and I thought, that's exactly what's going to happen when we get invaded. From the windows to the walls, chaos, disaster, blood, sweat, and we're over here treating it like a halftime show. So what are my thoughts? I hope they're playing that same record when they come to detain Trump or anybody else like Anne Frank, hiding in attics, hiding in bunkers. This shit is not cute. The world is watching us and laughing. The circus isn't funny anymore, it's scary. People call me crazy, they say Jaguar Wright is sick in the head, that I need a nurse, that I'm a conspiracy theorist. They clown, they dismiss, but all I've ever done is tell the truth as I've seen it and lived it. The truth about how evil this industry really is. You can have all the money, all the fame, the biggest house in Calabasas, and you're still not safe. Because everyone in this game answers to someone, everyone. Somebody controls the bag, somebody controls the narratives, somebody controls the industry. The artists become puppets, the executives become puppets, even billionaires become puppets. That's just how it works. And I've been revealing this for years. Bill Cosby, Diddy, Biggie, Pac, all these feuds, all these tragedies, all these coincidences. People act shocked when another story comes out, but I'm not. I've been saying it. All this shit with Diddy, you really think he had nothing to do with Biggie's death when Big was openly talking about ownership, leaving Bad Boy and getting his publishing back? This is a man sitting on masters worth hundreds of millions. You think that's not motive? It's crazy, but it's the normal kind of crazy in this business. Diddy's house with tunnels leading to Hugh Hefner's house. Those underground paths connecting star to star, mansion to mansion. There are stories about tunnels leading to Michael Jackson's property too. Whole estates connected so people can move in secret, party in secret, do dirt in secret. It sounds like a movie, but that's the reality. All of these powerful men, all of these freak-offs, all of this hidden footage, and threaded through all of it, pedophilia, exploitation, rape, coercion, blackmail. Every last one of them participating on some level, or at least standing by and letting it happen. But we still sit around like it is what it is. Now we need justice, real justice, for everyone whose life was destroyed by these monsters, for every black life and brown life and poor life that got chewed up and spit out by this machine. Because in this industry, nobody is safe. Nobody gets special treatment forever. Once you sign up, once you step in, anything can happen to you. It's a cold game, and the house always wins. I'm always going to go crazy in their eyes because I refuse to shut up. I will keep exposing these ninjas because most of them belong in jail or at least need to be held accountable for the crimes they committed behind the mic, behind the camera, behind the contracts. But it is what it is, right? Like, share, subscribe, stay tuned, have a blessed day. Now let me break down Bill Cosby's situation properly, because a lot of people are confused or deliberately misled. William Bill Cosby was released from prison, but he was not proven innocent. That's a crucial distinction. What a lot of people forget is that he himself admitted to the accusations in detail, and that confession is exactly why he walked out of prison. Listen closely. Years back, there was one particular woman in Canada. Bill had a relationship with her. They were friends, they spent time together, and then one night he did some things, the same pattern we've heard again and again. She went to the police. The prosecutors looked at the case and did what prosecutors always do. They asked, "Can we win this in criminal court?" Their answer, no. Why? Because she had a prior relationship with him. The world already didn't believe women easily, and he was Bill Cosby, America's dad, beloved, wealthy, powerful. Juries are biased. Systems are biased. They knew the odds weren't in their favor. Bill is sitting there like, "So I can go, like, we done," and they're like, "No, sit down, we're going to try something else." They decide, instead of criminal charges, they'll go the civil route. "Bill, if you don't want us to charge you criminally, which could ruin your life and your reputation on a whole other level, we'll only file a civil case. You pay some money, we keep it quiet. How about that?" Bill says, "Sure, I'll pay, but this doesn't get out to nobody, right?" They say, "Deal." So as part of that civil process in 2005, Bill admits to everything. In detail, he talks about the past women, what he used, quaaludes, pills, alcohol, how he tricked them into taking it, how he set up the situations. Nobody forced him to confess. He did it willingly because he believed it would stay sealed, hidden, forgotten. No big deal, right? Pay the money, bury the truth, go back to being America's dad. That was 2005. Fast forward, Bill gets greedy. He tries to stage a big comeback. Lectures, interviews, trying to reclaim the spotlight. He steps back out on that main stage like the past is gone. Then Hannibal Buress, a comedian, gets on stage one night and casually drops a line in his set. "Bill Cosby loves to rape." People laugh, then they pause, then they start Googling. Bill shrugs it off, he's hating. A woman comes out and says, "No, he's not hating, it's true, he did that to me." Bill says she's hating too. 10 women come out. Oh, they all hating. 50 women step forward. It's a conspiracy, they lying. 60 more, the number keeps climbing. At some point, that they all lying defense starts to crumble in the court of public opinion. The prosecutors remember that civil deal from 2005. Hey, remember that case we handled civilly but not criminally? That woman in Canada, that sealed deposition. They decide, let's run the criminal play now. Bill's lawyers are like, "Y'all are stupid, you can't win this. You have no physical proof, no recent evidence, just old accusations." The prosecutors smile and say, "Oh, don't we have his own words." They pull out that sealed deposition. "Remember this, Bill, you admitted to doing these things under oath." Bill is like, whoa, y'all said that was off limits. Y'all promised no criminal charges if I talked. They shrug, yeah, we know what was said, we changed our minds. Bill says, where's the district attorney who gave me that deal? He's gone, we got a new one now. The new DA says, run it, let's go to trial. Bill's lawyers object, you're violating the agreement, you're breaking the law. The DA asks, did you get that promise in writing? Bill looks at his lawyer, you got it in writing, right? You didn't just take a handshake on this, right? Tell them. And his lawyer has nothing solid to show that the promise was binding the way they thought. So they go to court. During the trial, the prosecutors play Bill's own testimony where he says, yes, I did it. Yes, I gave them drugs. Yes, I knew what I was doing. They put women on the stand who say, he did it to me too. The jury goes back to deliberate. 11 jurors say, he's guilty, he told you himself. But one juror, just one, says, I don't know, I'm not sure, I can't say beyond a reasonable doubt. The judge has no choice, a hung jury, mistrial. The public hears mistrial and a lot of them think, oh, that means he's innocent. No, it just means they couldn't get a unanimous verdict. The prosecutors say, run it back, we'll try again. Second trial, same facts, same confession, same pattern, but this time the jury doesn't crack. Bill says on tape, I did it. Multiple women testify, yes, he did. The jury returns guilty, he gets sentenced, he goes to prison. But Bill has money, Bill has power. He has lawyers on retainer for years, so they keep filing appeals, appeal after appeal after appeal. Most of them get denied, until finally the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania takes a real look at the record. They say, hold up, you told this man through a district attorney that he would not be criminally prosecuted if he gave up his Fifth Amendment right and spoke freely. If he knew you were going to later use that testimony to lock him up, he would never have confessed. That's a violation of his rights. And they're right, legally that's true. The system doesn't claim to be morally right, it claims to be procedurally fair. On a technical level, his rights were violated. So they overturn the conviction, not because he didn't do it, not because he was exonerated, but because the state broke its word and mishandled the process. Bill Cosby walks out of prison. He cannot be tried again for those same charges. Double jeopardy attaches. Case closed legally. But understand this. This was never a case about whether he did it in reality. In his own words in sworn testimony, he admitted, I did. The law never said he is innocent. The court said, we messed up the rules getting this conviction, so we have to throw it out. Don't muddy the lines between the courtroom and the truth. The court is not designed to declare ultimate moral truth. It's designed to follow procedure, to be fair in process, not necessarily precise in justice. So yes, William was released. Yes, he can't be retried for that particular pattern of crimes. But no, he was not found innocent. If anything, the only reason we know the full extent of what he did is because he believed his confession would stay buried forever. And it didn't.